But in the meantime, I'm going to welcome the moderator for this panel because time is of the essence. So please, for those of us who are still here and present here, I'd like us to put our hands together for the moderator of the plenary session 3 on local government autonomy and the prospects for grassroots development, the project manager, Media in National Elections, CJID, Amina Miango. Let's put our hands together for Amina Miango as she comes up. She'll be moderating this very important plenary session on local government autonomy and the prospects for grassroots development. Next up, I'll be bringing up the speakers. Careful, Amina. You good? All right. So for this plenary, we'll have the following speakers. First, the head, Tracka Budget, Ladipo. Please let's put our hands together for Ladipo. I'm hoping Ayo is not outside taking tea. Oh, there she goes. Thank you very much. Also on this panel, we have Hajara Mohammed. Hajara Mohammed is Chairperson, Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission, KADSIECOM. Let's put our hands together for Hajara Mohammed as she comes up. So we have representation from all the key stakeholders. This is why this conversation is really important. So if you're still outside, please come inside. You don't want to miss out on this moving bus. Next up on this plenary is the Executive Director, Electoral College of Nigeria, Mr. Kunle Lawal. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Kunle Lawal, who would also be on this plenary. And last but not least, of course, Barrister Festus Okoye, making a comeback. We saw him yesterday, but he's back to have this all-important conversation. Former National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education, INEC. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Festus Okoye. Brings a lot of experience to this conversation. So we have 40 minutes to prosecute this conversation. Over to you, Amina. Wish you the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, did you press here? I think it's on here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back from tea break. This is going to be an interesting panel. So sometime in July, the Supreme Court handed down a decision on local government autonomy. That was not the first time, but there was probably something different about this particular decision. And this decision brought about a lot of discussions on the way forward for local government financial autonomy and as well as local government elections. So I have four big weights waiting to do justice to this discussion. But before we go into the financial part, I would like Barrister Festus Okoye, if you can, sir. You're a lawyer, and we need to understand, this is not the first time that the Supreme Court has pronounced on autonomy for local governments. What's the difference between this decision and the former ones?
I think that in trying to understand the basis of the decision of the Supreme Court that was given in July, it's important to underscore the fact that we have 774 local government areas in Nigeria, and this also encompasses the area councils in the Federal Capital Territory. Now, Section 7 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which we normally refer to as the ground norm of the country, the fundamental law of the land, guarantees the system of local governments. And it says that every state government shall, under its own laws, guarantee the existence of democratically elected local governments. That is the law. But it says that the state governments should guarantee this autonomy in their own laws. And that is why in some states, we have local governments that have a tenure of 3 years, some have a tenure of 2 years, some have a tenure of 4 years. And even in one instance, we had local governments that had a tenure of 1 year. So that was the situation before this particular judgment. Now, before the judgment of the Supreme Court, which was delivered in July, there had been numerous judgments up to the Supreme Court on the issue of whether a state government or a state House of Assembly has the constitutional right or virus to dissolve a democratically elected government. Secondly, on whether any state government has the constitutional right or legal right to appoint caretaker committees to run our local governments. In all the judgments, both the high courts, the federal high courts, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court said, no, you don't have the right to dissolve any democratically elected local government, and no state government and no state assembly has the right to appoint caretaker committees. But he ended there because in some instances, even the state governments and the state House of Assembly enabled the filing of some of these matters. Because as long as the matters are in court, they can run their caretaker committees. So it doesn't matter. Sometimes you see a matter that has gone to the High Court. After some time, judgment will be given. The state government will enable the filing of an appeal in order to hang the matter. And then when you ask them, why haven't you conducted local government elections, they say there's a matter in court. What is the difference between what we had before and this one? One, just one difference. And that's why they're running from pillar to post. The Supreme Court now said, okay, we've told you before that you cannot dissolve, you dissolve. We've told you before that you cannot appoint caretaker committees, you have continued to appoint caretaker committees. What will happen now is that money, in fact, money is at the root, is at the heart of the entire thing. That money you normally receive from the federation account on behalf of the local governments that you spend, that you appropriate, you will no longer receive it. That money will now go directly to the local governments. And for a local government to receive it, there must be democratically elected local government council. So that is why they be running up and down, trying to organize what they called local government elections. I said they are trying to organize, or some of them have organized, what they called local government elections. I think we'll get into that. So the whole thing is all about money. Without the Supreme Court saying you will no longer receive, they will not organize. So that is the only difference.
Thank you, sir. Talking about local government elections, Hajiya, you are the chairperson of State Independent Electoral Commission. And your state has almost always had local government elections. I remember a time that Kaduna was introduced electronic voting. But I think in the last election that just held, I think a few months ago, it was jettisoned. It wasn't used again. Yeah? And I remember a few months ago too, the CJID did a survey for Edo and Ondo elections. And one of the issues that came up was that citizens don't trust electoral bodies to actually conduct free and fair elections. And if you are removing electronic voting that sort of gave credibility to the process, yeah, and at the end of the day, one political party won all the seats, all LGA seats, all the councillorship seats. How can you assure citizens that you, as a State Independent Electoral Commission, can actually conduct credible elections?
Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Amina. First of all, let me just chip in from what Mr. Festus has just said about local government councils election and straightening of it. What is important is, as he has said, the states have the power to enact law for their sex. That is why when you look at the sex across the states, we have different laws that are governing the sex. And even the tenure of the local government councils that were elected, ranging from 1 to 4 years. And even the periodic election differs from one state to the other. As in, from the state that I came, just the last concluded elections, the council handed over from a democratic elected council to another democratic elected council. There is no gap for any caretaker or sole administrators. But in other states, in our forum, I understand that there are states right from since Nigeria returned to democracy for over 20 years, they only conducted local government election twice. So most of the period of this time, they are having either sole administrators or caretakers committee. So it's difficult to give a blanket assessment to sex because of this disparity and because of the origin of the law that is governing them. The law that is governing them is enacted by the House of Assembly, and there are different laws enacting it. But what we should work towards is strengthening of the institution. And this cannot be done by the SEC themselves. It has to be in conjunction with CSOs. They were the one that will initiate this strengthening of SEC institution to ensure a more credible elections. Then back to your question when you talk about electronic voting and manual voting. Electronic voting is good. It's, the world is moving to digital and technology innovation, so it's good. But actually, that technology doesn't guarantee the credibility of elections. There are other entities that have to be put in place to ensure that elections are credible. Either it is electronic or manual, there is more to it to achieve credible elections. Even globally, when you look at it, there are countries, even advanced countries, that have been doing electronic voting, but have reversed to manual voting because they feel that is more appropriate for them. So I don't want us to have this at the back of our mind that once the election is electronic, it's going to be credible, so we just fold our arms and leave everything, okay, everything is going to be okay. Or whereby we just have it at the back of our mind, whereby once the election is manual, it's not going to be credible, so no matter how good it is, we don't look at it. So we should look beyond whether it is electronic or manual. Just for instance, like in Germany, they used to have electronic voting, but they reversed because they feel that is what they want. And their elections had always been credible. So the issue of technology doesn't really determine the credibility of elections. But technology is good. I'm not kicking against it. And even this time around that we didn't use it due to time constraint and the additional polling units that were created by INEC, we still have our machine, and we are trying to augment that gap for gap of polling units that we have, so that next election we use technology.
Okay, thank you, Ma. The thing with credibility of elections, like justice, it's like people need to see that it is credible first before all the other. So yeah, electronic voting, with electronic voting, it gives citizens some sort of assurance that their votes are going to count. So that's the advantage of such processes. Kunle, it looks like you have a lot to say. So I'll get to you. Okay, so we've had governors kicking against the judgment. Governor Soludo went ahead to sign a law that basically compels local governments to submit a part of their federal allocation to him, yeah? So what do you think as stakeholders, CSOs, policymakers, how can we ensure that the judgment of the Supreme Court doesn't just pass? Governors cannot just decide to use their state houses of assembly to pass laws that, I mean, the Constitution is the supreme law, yeah, and the Supreme Court is the law. Everyone knows that. So what do you think CSOs can do to check the excesses of governors?
Okay,
and stakeholders.
Okay, first of all, what everybody must understand is that the first handshake of democracy to the people is the local government. If you fail with the local government, then your democracy has failed. Now, expanding that conversation, I would say if one party wins all elections in a particular election, the credibility of that particular election is more in question than it could ever be. And that's the truth about it. We need to understand that in local governments, we have created a culture of politics which is totally non-existent of the actual laws which exist. The media is guilty of this. And I don't want to mention media houses, but let's have a real conversation. 2.02 trillion was spent on local government allocations in 2023 alone. That's more than chasing the center. And I have to believe that we need to understand the structure of a functional nation before. So you have conversations in Nigeria and people are saying, give us state police. Really, you have a federal police, you're clamoring for state police. So it means you have a roof, and then you have the walls of a house, and you skip the foundation, which is local government police. No local government in Nigeria earns less than 300 million naira a month for FAC allocations. And nobody's having these conversations. CSOs are more interested in what is the president doing, what are senators doing. Who even knows that councillors at the local government, we're all guilty of this. Who even knows that councillors are even, how do I put it, the lawmaking arm of the local governments? Nobody is discussing that conversation. So I feel CSOs, the media, the electorate, because in Nigeria, you have less than 7% participation in elections, in any local government election, all across Nigeria. And for us, we're just not interested. So I think CSOs need to revisit how they handle things. The media, I'm happy Channels is here. Channels likes talking about national and state. I hope they will decide to talk about local governments. And it's because you're here, I'm talking to you. And of course, the cable and co. Let's hope you start having real, frank conversations in local government. Because without a functional or an existent local government, a democracy cannot survive. How is it going to? Local governments are in charge of quite a number of things. But if you ask the average person here, how much even in FAC allocations, and I had a conversation, you know, while they were talking earlier here, everybody was saying, now that states, federal government has agreed to give money to the local governments. I'll use an analogy to explain this. Everybody remembers the situation in Ogun State with Dakwa Abiodun, and the fact that he wanted the local government chairman to return the FAC allocation back to him. So what does that tell you? Local governments have always received their funds themselves. They are the ones that repatriate it back. But when even the so-called not too young to run, which everybody is pushing, are not interested in running for local government. They all want to be House of Reps, Senate, you know, the posh things. I believe the greatest threat to local governments are the emperors of states. Sorry, did I say emperors? I meant governors. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kunle. You've answered your second question while answering. Thank you so much. Ayo, what measures should be implemented to bridge the gap between financial autonomy and actual grassroots development?
Thank you.
And impact?
Thank you for that. And I think Kunle has said some of the things that I wanted to talk about. There's a cliche that says, to whom much is given, much is expected. For financial autonomy to actually translate into grassroots development, first thing is capacity and responsibility. And capacity in the sense that this year I was at an event, I met a councillor of a local government, and he was telling me that they need us to come and do trainings for them because the last budget that they passed, all the councillors that were in the room did not know what was happening. They did not know the processes. They did not know about anything. And I said, fine. But one thing that has baffled me after is that 3 months later, I saw this same man start campaigning to be the local government chairman. And it is funny. And he has very high chances of becoming the local government chairman. Now, what does that say is that the people at that level of our government, we have overlooked them and we have left it to people who should have no business being there. I visited the local government office recently, and the vice chairman was not there during our discussions with the chairman. And the chairman said they should go and call him. And when the guy came in, it was clearly a tout. And when he sat down, when they tried to explain everything that we discussed, he was like, okay. And this is a vice chairman. These are the people in charge of our resources. Now, we need capacity for that level, people that will handle those kind of resources, people that would elevate the resources, because the resources are not even enough. When we did a review of local government spendings 2 years ago, we saw that for 2 of the local governments, they were spending 97% of their earnings to pay salaries. And so, where is the remaining money left for development? And the only way they can now outsource and expand their financial bracket is when they have the capacity to do that, to attract investment, to streamline their tax collection processes. So they don't have that capacity. We need that capacity. 2, interest. Everybody here, I know he has said it, most of us don't know our local government chairman. We don't know their names. There were some elections conducted in this last 2-3 months. Many people did not partake in it. And the excuse they will give is, oh, it was not credible, it was not this. But it was, the people that were perpetrating both the violence and the ballot snatching and everything could do that freely because there's low level of participation. The elite and everybody in this room, I'll brand us as elite, we are more interested in federal government, state government, and then we leave the local government for the grassroots people. And I think when we say that grassroots word, it already feels like we are alienated. When they hear grassroots, oh, grassroots doesn't concern me, it's for the poor, in quote. So when we start saying grassroots, we think that, oh, that one doesn't concern me, I have to go and be reviewing what the state government is doing and what the federal government is doing. What the local government is doing is for the poor people. And that is where we have missed it. So our interest needs to develop. We need to be able to now either empower the grassroots people, in quotes, to be able to engage in quality terms with the local government. And I'll end by saying this. At one of the town hall meetings we held, when we were trying to explain to the people, to the women and the groups, that this is what they should be looking out for in their budget. And they said, they would just call them that, yes, they call them for budget consultation. But what do they do at the budget consultation meetings? They share rice, they give them Ankara, and they go. The people there do not know the questions to ask. They do not know the things to look out for. People like us that know the things to look out for, we are not in those rooms. And then if we cannot be in those rooms, we have to be able to empower the people that are in those rooms to actually engage them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ayo. Barrister Okoye, INEC has always conducted FCT area council elections. And the elections happen as at when they should happen. And we always have different political parties winning seats. Do you think CX should be allowed to continue to conduct LGA elections in states? Or do you think that function should be sent back to INEC? Or do we need to create a new body, like our legislatures are thinking, to do that?
I think that the problem of local governments are multifaceted. And one of the things, we must have a conversation. Do we need local governments as presently constituted? Or should we, as a people and as a nation, allow each state to determine the type of grassroots democracy or grassroots government it wants? There are some states that created development areas at a certain period. There were some states that created what they call administrative areas. Some states created what they call metropolitan areas. And Imo State created what he called community government. Should we have a conversation and ask the question, what is it that we need for grassroots democracy? And I say this because, just pardon me. A client of mine did a work for a local government in Kaduna State. That's some time ago. And we kept on writing letters, demand letters for the monies to be paid, and nobody paid the money. They didn't even respond to any of the letters. So I decided to go there. And when I got to the local government, I didn't see anybody. But I saw a security man coming out. And I approached him. I said, I beg, I look for chairman or vice chairman. He looked at me. He said, are you a stranger? I said, yeah, nah, from Kaduna I come. He said, okay, they know they are not around. And he started walking away. Then I called him back. I said, you live around here. What of your family? So I gave him some money. He said, what is it? Why are you looking for chairman? He told me that the chairman was in Zaria, and that the vice chairman was in Zaria, and that all the HODs are in Zaria. I said, waiting, then they do there. He asked me again, are you a stranger? So I asked him, I said, you know the place when then they? He said, you get biro. He gave me I said, yes. He gave me the name of the hotel and the room number where they were. And I drove to Zaria, went to the hotel, met the receptionist. Apparently, the receptionist was acting on instruction. So, not to allow anybody into that room. So I told her, the receptionist, that I was part of that meeting. And then I started moving up. Before she even opened her mouth, I had climbed up. I knocked on the door, and one person just opened the door small, and then I entered. Allocation had come. The allocation was on the floor. They were compartmentalizing it and sharing it. So the person I felt was the chairman asked me, what do you want? I said, I'm Barrister Okoye, and you've been owing my client for a long time, and you don't want to pay. He said, how much will they owe him? I told him. He said, okay, we go give you half. He collected half, gave to me. I didn't sign any document. He said, go away. So the problems we have in the local governments are serious. Now, I was a member of the Electoral Reform Committee called the Justice Uwais Committee. For 1 year and 3 months, we toured the whole of this country. Everywhere we went to, traditional rulers, civil society groups and organizations, and other critical stakeholders insisted that the state independent electoral commissions, whether you appoint, quote and unquote, credible people, that the governors will not allow them to conduct elections. Not to talk of conducting credible elections. There was also the Justice, the Nnamani Committee. It recommended the same thing. I was also a member of the 2014 National Conference. At the National Conference, all of us agreed that there were problems. But we insisted that we must find ways and means of empowering the local governments, the State's Independent Electoral Commission, the way INEC was being empowered in terms of financial autonomy and the rest of them. But the truth of the matter is that I have witnessed, it's not that I was told, a local government election was fixed. The ballot papers, everything was in the government house. The governor was in Abuja. He took a flight, returned to the state, came down from the flight, sent for the chairman of the State Independent Electoral Commission, handed over to him the list of elected local government chairmen and councillors, and then came back to Abuja. In such circumstances, what will a chairperson of State Independent Electoral Commission do? My position is that if you look at the indices, for instance, Kwara State has conducted its own local government elections. The ruling party won 16 chairmanship, all the 16 chairmanship seats, and the 193 councillorship seats. Imo State conducted. The ruling party won 17, the entire 17, and all the 305 councillorship positions. Sokoto State conducted. The ruling party won 25 chairmanship positions all, and 499 out of 500 seats. So at least there's some improvement here. Now, Benue State has conducted. The ruling party won 23 and all the 276 chairmanships. Jigawa State, the ruling party won 27, all the 27 and all the 244. Our Kaduna State, you know I'm part of Kaduna. Should not be talking about Kaduna. The ruling party won 23 and the 255 councillorship positions. Kogi State, the ruling party won the 21 councillorship chairmanship positions and the 239 councilorships. There are, in Rivers State, when I give the figure for Rivers State, you have to read it in context or analyze it in context. A party called the APP won 22 chairmanship positions. A party called AA won 1 chairmanship position. Then APC won 1 councillorship position. YPP won 1 councillorship position. SDP won 1 councillorship position. And Labour Party won. At least there's something to cheer about. And I have the entire list here. So there are 2 positions. For me, there are 3 positions. The first position is that we keep on making efforts to empower the state's independent electoral commissions by trying to see whether we can get financial autonomy for them, and also by supporting them through a multi-stakeholder venture. But how do you support a chairperson of a state independent electoral commission in a place like Yobe State, that you have the independent media are very few, the remaining, I say things the way they are, the remaining operate from government house. So how do you support them in such circumstances when they have problem, when they cry out? The second position, which has been canvassed by all the panels and commissions that have been set up, is for us to transfer or to integrate the state's independent electoral commission into the structure of the of INEC. And the third one is to allow people to organize their grassroots democracy the way they want. These are the 3 positions, and we must, as a people and as a nation, pick one. And I say this because 99.9% of all the local government elections that were conducted recently were conducted in violation of the law. 99.9 were conducted in violation of the law. And nobody wants to go to court, because if you go to court, you play into their hands. Section 150 of the Electoral Act 2022 says that the procedure that is applicable to the conduct of elections in the Federal Capital Territory shall be the procedure applicable to the conduct of local government elections. And for you to conduct local government elections, it means that you have to also go to Section 29 of the Electoral Act, which says that political parties shall conduct primaries, and all these things shall happen, at least there should be a gap of 180 days, 6 months. And the law says that any state independent electoral commission that does not comply with the law, that whatever it has done is null and void and is invalid. But if you go to court, you play into their hands. So I think that what we should do, as my colleague there pointed out, those of us who are within civil society groups and organizations, we only believe in federal or national elections. When it comes to grassroots elections, when it comes to local government elections, we just go and sit back. But that is the foundation, that is the locus of democracy.
Barrister Okoye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before my panelists give their final words, I think we'll take 2 minutes to get contributions from the audience. So, okay. The lady? Yeah. Hold on.
Okay, and thank you very much. While you were speaking, you mentioned that if they go to court at the local government level, they are playing into their hands. Whose hands are they playing into and why?
Okay. The gentleman. Who?
I acknowledge everyone seated here. My name is Bernard Lucas Yesu, Plateau State University, Bokos. Sir, at the course of your presentation, there was something you made mention of that I became so disturbed about it. Why am I disturbed? It seems we have,
you have 20 seconds, sir.
Two sets of Nigerians. Because you mentioned that there were Supreme Court judgments that gave local government autonomy. But some set of Nigerians, the governors in court, refuse that such judgments will not work in their own state. So are they powerful than the Supreme Court? Or what are we saying to ourselves?
Thank you, sir. There's someone. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Please.
Now the participation has been encouraged at the grassroots. But how do you participate where violence is endemic and thuggery is endemic? And equally, she said capacity building. How do you build capacity in people with the lowest character and equally with the lowest competence? So that is my fear.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I want to start by appreciating the panelists for their contributions. I want to focus on the role of the media in this respect. We are supposed to be watchdogs. We are supposed to make sure that there is accountability. We are supposed to be agenda setters, right? I believe we may have focused so much on investigative journalism at the expense of some of the other roles. We need to re-engineer our institution. If we do not do more aggressive, repetitive agenda setting, nobody will hear us. The people who have power over us don't even want us to talk. But we are fortunate enough that our profession guarantees repetition. So it's when we focus all our intervention on Lagos and Abuja, even though 42% of our resources every year goes to the sub-regional government and about 22 goes to the local government. In my local government, I don't know anybody there. I don't. And I was a professor there for years. So I'm not an illiterate. They change them just like that. So we have to get a little more aggressive with how we tell the citizens stories. Thank you.
I'm sorry we can't take more questions, so maybe after you can meet any one of the panelists. So let's go back to Barrister Okoye. You had some questions. Yes. You have 30 seconds.
The Supreme Court judgment that was delivered on the 11th day of July 2024 had 11 declarations and 3 consequential orders. It is those consequential orders that are creating problems for them. Some of the previous judgments, there were just declarations, there were no consequential orders. Now, if some of the governors, I can't say most of the governors, don't want local government autonomy, they don't want local government elections, they want to run the show through caretaker committees. So if you now go to court, the issue now will be, let us continue to receive. There's a matter in court. When that matter is fully sorted out, we can get back to where we are coming from. So that means playing into their hands. They will still be holding the local governments down.
Thank you very
much. On the second issue, let me just respond lastly to the second issue. And I think I've responded to it. When you don't have a consequential order, the Supreme Court just delivered judgment. They say, yes, we will obey. They dissolve and reappoint. They have obeyed.
Kunle, final words.
Okay. We've had so many conversations. Well, the work we do at the Electoral College is basically focused on political literacy. So since I don't have the time, I'm going to go very fast. We're in AMAC. What's AMAC's FAC allocation? Nobody here can give me the answer, including channels. Sorry, you're standing near me. But you can't. I'll tell you for free, 968 million naira. And guess what? You feel helpless about it. Oh, there's no governor in Abuja. Oh, I found out. So who is holding you back? Let me add something critical. A lot of CSOs talk about accountability. A lot of other people talk about accountability. The local government does not have immunity. Who else can you hold accountable more than the local government? But of course, as citizens, we must gauge our responsibilities. So you know what? Be the citizen and act like governors are dictating. You are the one actually mortgaging your position. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kunle. Hajiya, final words. Hajiya, final words.
Okay, my final, let me kind of respond to the gentleman who talks about not being able to participate at the grassroots because of the gap they have. There are people that he regards as maybe cannot comprehend what is happening, just as she has said, that somebody has to be there. So I'll just give an example, like us sects that conduct these local government elections, the grassroots. Or maybe we should start moving that grass, because maybe it's something that is taking people away at the initial stage of democracy. That is the root of democracy. We trade at places whereby there are a lot of hazard and risk. But despite of that, we still go there and do our work. So as CEOs, I'm just inviting you that so long as you want to impact, you have to take that bold step of trading in that areas whereby there are hazards, there are risks, and people who you want to go and engage with those don't really understand what you are trying to do. But so long as you want to make that impact, you have to take that initial step of engaging them. Because so long as you didn't go there, you sit back at the luxury or comfort of big cities. You cannot do actual assessment at the grassroots.
Thank you very much. Ayo, final words.
Thank you. So I wanted to answer his question about thuggery and violence. Where is there no thuggery and violence? During state elections, there's thuggery and violence. During presidential elections, there's thuggery and violence. But you will come out still. That's one. That's an answer. The second thing is capacity. The not too young to run bill is there, like Mr. Kunle has said. And you will not find young people, capable people, like me, is also a shade to myself, like you, vying for posts at the local government level. We feel that we are too big for that. And so we have left it to the people that they don't feel is too big for them. And they are going to rule us. That's the quality of governance that we are going to get. My last word is that of the top 20 local governments that receive their highest allocations are across the 774, and 17 are in Lagos, 3 are in Abuja. So they are the ones that receive the highest allocations in the country. Anyways, my last word is that, please, everyone in this room, when you leave this room, please first Google who is my local government chairman. Check where you live. Know who your local government chairman is. Take it a step further. Know your councillor. And when you get home, Find out when they do meetings, join them. Let's not just leave it hanging here and go back and feel like, oh, we have discussed local government. We are fine, let's go home. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to my panelists. If you want an explanation of what consequential order is, please meet Barrister Okoye at the end of the session. Thank you so much.
Big thank you to all our speakers and the moderator. I think this is a job well done, so we'll quickly take photographs.